Today, we're going to use a little bit of ice podge and decoupage paper. So the goal is to turn this blah table into something more decorative, kind of industrial maybe. It's got glass on the top, metal legs, but I think it can be something really pretty. Let's see what we can do. So I've had this table with the metal legs and the glass top in my shop forever, and I mostly have merchandise on top of it, but I think it's time that I get a little makeover. First things first is I pull the glass top out. It pops out. It was super easy. It's got this foggy glass look, but before I do anything to it, the first thing that needs to be done is we need to clean the glass with a little glass cleaner just to make sure we don't have any dust particles on the glass, because that's where the decoupage paper is going to go. We're going to put the decoupage paper from the bottom of the glass, so the top of the table is still glass and the paper will be completely on the bottom. Okay, glass is clean. Now it's time to get the paper. I chose this paper. It's from Recycle, and it says hardware on it. And I want to keep this table with an industrial look. That's the vibe I'm going for. It is going to take 2 sheets because the glass is bigger than the paper, which I believe the paper is 20 by 30. So the first thing we need to do is put down the Mod Podge, which is a glue, and it's also a sealer, by the way. I just poured some right in the middle, and what I really want to do is minimize the wrinkles. So to minimize the wrinkles, I needed to make sure that I had Mod Podge glue on every inch of this glass, because when you don't have it on your whole surface, what happens is you get bubbles, and that's because the paper is not sticking because there is no glue. So I wanted to sort of work in sections and make sure that there was glue exactly where there needed to be glue, and then just kind of measure out the paper. What was perfect is the width of the paper was just right for the width of the top of the glass of this table. It was too short, but that's why we're going to use 2 pieces. And you really just need to take your time to get the paper down, and then just kind of gently, not too rough, which sometimes I tend to be because I'm in a hurry, gently just pat it down so you can minimize the wrinkles. Usually, I don't mind the wrinkles because I think it gives it a certain vintage look, but because this is glass, I wanted as little wrinkles as possible. Sometimes it's hard to get no wrinkles at all, but for this one, I wanted as little as possible. So another way to kind of take out even more wrinkles is to use a brayer, which I couldn't find mine. Or anything else like a brush like this that I have here, just to kind of smooth out those wrinkles. Whoops, little tear, not a problem. You're just gonna gently grab that paper and straighten it out and just push it back into the table, the glue, whatever it is you're working on, and everything is gonna be all right. I promise, you'll see. Okay, so now it's time to put on that second piece of decoupage paper, and we want to make sure that it looks like it's meant to be there, not like we put a second piece on there to make it work. We want it to look like it's supposed to be this way. So I did flip over the glass because I wanted to see how the first piece was looking to begin with. Then I take the second piece and kind of just lay it over the glass, just to see where the first piece ends and where the second piece is going to start. So because there is wording here, we have to figure out, I guess, what part of this second piece we're going to keep. And so that is really all up to you. I decided that I wanted to start at a certain part of the paper to kind of make it look like it did go together. But you could start with the hardware, you could start with the words plants and oils. It's all up to you. So now it's time to repeat the first step, and that is getting the Mod Podge glue onto the glass and making sure that it's on there evenly, not too thick, not too thin, and that it's covering the whole glass so that we don't have any air bubbles and we can take out all of the wrinkles. We want to avoid wrinkles at all costs. So now we have to repeat step 1 and make sure that we get that decoupage glue all over the surface evenly and put that paper down gently and just pat it down. This is the tricky part because you're trying to line up this paper to make it look like it's one sheet and not one and part of another, and it's tricky because you're working with it upside down. What I did do is I kind of scored with my hands the edges of the paper where it was supposed to go at the edge of the table, and this is how I got it to kind of line up really good. So yeah. So remember I said the decoupage glue is not only a glue, but it's a sealant as well. So we want to seal, even though this is going to be underneath the table and chances of anything happen to it are really minimal. We want to still seal this with the decoupage just to give it that extra layer of protection. Okay. So next you're going to need a scoring knife. We're going to cut off the edges where the paper overlaps the glass, and I think a scoring knife really is a nice sharp one, really is the best way to do this, nice and evenly. You don't want any jagged edges really, because you just want it to look nice and clean, nice clean cuts. So that is what we're going to do next. Before we're almost done with this, the paper part anyway. So now that we're done with the decoupage paper and the glass is back on the table, I'm just going to paint the edges, which is wood by the way, with faded burlap. The faded burlap matches the color in the words of this decoupage paper. So it's a nice blend. Now we're going to paint the sides and the legs of this table. This is the metal part. I chose the color black velvet, and this will make it more vibrant than the color that was already on there. And remember, we want this to be industrial looking, and look at how pretty it's looking so far. So because I want to make this industrial, I want to use a little bit of salt wash to give the metal part some texture. So I'm going to mix that in with my gray paint here and just kind of give it like a textured look, kind of like it's rusted. But I want to keep it not so much the rusty colors, but I want to keep the gray in there because I really like this gray and this tan color together, which is called faded burlap, by the way. Salt wash is a powder. It does not have a color, and you mix it with your paint, and you want it to be the consistency of frosting or cake batter, and that's how it'll work. If you put too much salt wash, it'll be way too thick and it won't work, and if you don't put enough, it'll be watery. So you'll know. To apply the salt wash, all that you need to do is just dab it on. It's super easy. Usually if you are applying this to wood, and it comes up to, you build up the salt wash, you want to sand it down a little bit because when it hardens it does form peaks. But where this is metal, I just kind of try to dab it on and not have those little peaks form, so that I don't have to sand this, because it is metal and I do not want to sand and take the paint off. Okay, so we're here at the finish. So we do want to seal this paint, right? We want to seal wherever we paint. We do want to seal because that gives it that extra barrier of protection in case anything spills or anything like that. So I decided that I am going to seal the metal part with the wax, and I'm going to be mixing my waxes. I always mix my wax colors just like I do my paint colors. Started off with white because I wanted to kind of give this black kind of like a I don't know, like a steely look. I didn't want it to be completely black. I wanted to give it like a metal look. Yes. So we're going to achieve that by just getting a rag and just lightly just spreading it.